25% of Americans, roughly, control 40% of election donations. We know that the candidate with more money wins something like 85% of the time. We know that the Koch brothers are planning to pour in about $900 million to the 2016 election. And we know that the policy desires of the average person are not nearly as likely to be represented by our elected officials as those of the rich and of big corporations. And CrowdPack recently put out a study showing that between 1980 and 2012, the share of federal campaign contributions from the top 0.01% of donors has almost tripled. So to figure out what that means, let's just think about it this way. We have 330 million people in this country, roughly. That's 100% of the population. 10% of the population would be 33 million people. 1% of the population is 3.3 million people. 0.1% is 330,000. And 0.01% is 33,000 people. This study broke it down a little more specifically to 25,000 people. Between 2010 and 2012, the total share of political giving by this top 0.01% jumped by more than 10 percentage points. This is certainly related to Citizens United saying that money is speech. We have, or supposedly had, a nation built on democracy, but we really don't anymore, Lewis. The American dream barely exists. You're likely to stay in poverty if you're born into it, and it's unlikely that you can really influence our system.
It is. And looking at this story, I still think we would both agree that campaign finance reform is probably the number one issue facing our country, because you cannot solve any other problems until you tackle that.
It's not probably the most important issue. It is the most important issue, money in politics. If your big thing is education, well, it's moneyed interests that are impacting education. If your big thing is whatever, abortion, LGBT rights, whatever, money is either used, A, to influence that issue, B, as a wedge to divide and fundraise around that issue, or as a combination of the two, and it's used to fund media. So even if you say media is the most important issue, you can't talk about media without talking about the finance vicious circle. So there is no probably for me, Lewis. It is the most important issue, this corrosive impact of money within politics.
Yes, and we are not likely to see big changes anytime soon, of course, because those who would change the law benefit the most from it.
Next, Richard Wolff, economist Richard Wolff, will be back on the show. Been a little while since we spoke to him.